Welcome everyone to OnPodcast, the On Microsoft podcast, where we talk about Microsoft stuff on a podcast. I'm your host today, Graham Anderson. I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody's doing well out there.
Yeah, we're here to bring you another week of news. We took last week off, so fortunately there was nothing to talk about, so you guys didn't miss anything. This week there are things to talk about, and we will keep you from missing those. We're going to do a rundown of headlines that have accumulated over the week or so, starting off with Microsoft thinking about making Windows 12 a subscription. We're going back to Windows actually costing some money from us. We'll see where that might lead to. We're going to talk about Microsoft releasing Gold Shadow Special Edition for the Xbox controller. It's really cool black and gold looking thing. Microsoft's OneDrive update, enhanced content and access to file shortcuts. We're also going to be talking about Microsoft getting into with the CMA once again, but not over what you might think it was, what it might be. Zoom launching a competitor to Google Docs and Microsoft Word, which it kind of is a Notion copycat thing, but hey, who knows if it'll work for them. And then going over all the details of the next generation of OneDrive that they had. They had a special event that was kind of overshadowed by the Google event. But there's a ton of stuff coming to OneDrive. I think we've hinted about it over the past couple of months of some of this stuff, if you've been following. If you haven't, fortunately, you dropped in at the right time to get all the information. And then we'll be talking about our main discussion, which is actually Microsoft's hopefully last bout with the CMA over Activision, the Activision Blizzard deal. So let's get into it. David, give us our first headline, shall we?
Well, I'm going to jump right to the money headline here. Microsoft could introduce, as you mentioned, a subscription-based Windows service for our Windows software. Now, as we know, for the last several versions of Windows has been pretty much free. We haven't had to pay for it. We could download it. I do remember back in the day I paid for Windows 95, I believe, and I believe I paid for Windows ME. And then after that, things kind of got a little weird. So basically what we're seeing here is someone by the name of Deskmodder on Twitter has seen in the code where there are several references to subscription edition, subscription type, subscription status, whether your subscription is enabled or disabled, which kind of points to the fact that Microsoft could be getting ready to bundle things together. We have talked about it in previous episodes. They could be getting ready to bundle things together where you buy one item and it gets your Windows subscription, your Xbox subscription, your Office 365 subscription. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't totally agree with this logic. I think Apple, to my knowledge, has never charged for their OS. Chrome, of course, Chrome OS, Google has never charged for. So if Microsoft gets back into charging for the OS and there's no free option, what does that mean for consumers? Now, let me be clear, we don't have any hard evidence of any subscription plans coming or what this is going to cost or when it may go into effect. This is just something here that Deskmodder has seen in the code that could be introducing the concept of a Microsoft Windows subscription service. So don't get too upset just yet.
I'm going to keep it short and say that I don't believe this is what we're thinking it's going to be. I don't think Microsoft is going to start charging that because they'd essentially be double dipping. They already charge a licensing fee to OEMs who provide the hardware that we put Windows on to begin with. This isn't like they want to stifle laptop sales by saying, all right, keep your 5-year-old laptop and just get new Windows for it, because that would incentivize people from buying new laptops, which is, they don't want to do that to their partners. I think what this is actually going to be is more along, what we've been kind of saying is that Microsoft is going to move stuff to the cloud, and they have already started implementing settings options in the new out of the box experience for Windows 11. I think it's going to be the same thing for Windows 12, where if you want to pay for a subscription, part of it, or maybe this comes as a bundle of Microsoft 365, you'll be able to move all that stuff over more freely when you buy a new device. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever used Samsung Cloud or anything like that, but it's an app where you can basically transfer all of your settings, your apps, the background, wallpapers, all that kind of stuff from device to device without needing to hardwire anything in. So again, I think with the subscription version, you'll be able to move all of your Windows settings and preferences and apps and all that kind of stuff from device to device based on this kind of thing. And I think this is also just tags in here to make sure that anybody who has a Microsoft 365 subscription, they will know which individual apps are turned on and off in this subscription, so to speak. I don't think they're going to start charging individually for Windows as going forward, at least not Windows 12 and going forward, I don't think.
It could also be, we covered it, I guess it's been a month or two ago now, where there's the integration between a cloud PC and your local PC, kind of like, having two desktops up. It could be something there where the integration between the cloud PC and the local PC and the subscription goes a bit further and they bake everything in. You take somebody that's got a low-end PC. Hey, I would love to access the cloud PC to do task XYZ. Well, you can now go into Windows and subscribe to your cloud PC through your local PC and sign into your cloud PC and never leave your local desktop, if that makes sense. That could be in play there too, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's also for businesses as well to speak, instead of necessarily getting new devices that way, that they can start to issue employees versions of the take with them when they go travel and things like that as well. So we don't need to belabor that. That's not our main discussion. But what's our next headline?
Let's see. We have.
Oh, actually, you know what? I will take the next one.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to jump in line. I'm going to start talking about Microsoft being in trouble with antitrust investigation in the EU and the UK. We know that they're in trouble in the EU, specifically for the way that they do Azure and the way it's been bundled and whatnot. But the CMA is now about to open up a formal investigation into cloud, the way that they do cloud licensing. They aren't the only ones. This isn't like a singled out attack. This isn't retribution for the Activision deal. They are also targeting Amazon. These two happen to be the largest cloud providers as of right now, but the probe stems from a telecoms regulator, Ofcom's identification of various challenges associated with cloud services. Notably, the regulator highlighted obstacles that impede customers from switching providers and utilizing multiple cloud suppliers. The obstacles include charges associated with data migration, discounts limited to single cloud usage, and technical barriers to switching between providers. Specifically, the CMA targets Microsoft, referring to concerns about certain software licensing practices raised by Ofcom's report. The CMA's independent inquiry group will now investigate to determine whether competition in this market is working well, and if not, what action should be taken to address it, any issues that it finds. And this is from Sarah Cardell, the CEO of CMA. That's what she's saying. The CMA's market investigation is expected to span 18 months, which is with the statutory deadline set for April 4th, 2025. So we'll be filling you guys in on all the news throughout next year. This is just kind of giving you a heads up. We're about to get into another, regulatory bout with the CMA, but over something different. During this period, the UK regulators will examine potential theories of harm and propose remedial actions to rectify the situation. They can't stop any. There's no deals going on, but they may implement new breakage points for Microsoft as far as the way it bundles certain things, the way it prices certain things, and its migration tools. They may need to provide more. So again, just a heads up, Microsoft is in trouble, or could potentially be in trouble once again in the UK.
Not surprised by this at all, and I think this is starting point of, let's call it the cloud wars. I think this is the starting point of the cloud wars, and I think Microsoft is kind of just, the one on everybody's mind right now, and that's who we're going to check out first. Because when I think of cloud wars, I literally think of clouds. I mean, and that may sound stupid, but there's this big vast thing we call the cloud, and everybody's got their slice. Google has their slice, Microsoft has their slice, Amazon has their slice, and somehow we're all supposed to play fair. We're all supposed to have same pricing across the board, and Microsoft has been accused of backdoor deals in the past. They have been accused of this country gets things a little cheaper than this country. And everybody's fighting for their slice of the pie. So Microsoft, you're first up. Amazon, Google, and any other cloud provider out there that that's thinking about entering the space, they're watching to see what happens to you, so they know how to fight their battle when it comes, because this will eventually make its way to everybody. And I think this cloud competition thing is kind of going to be the new operating system wars of the 80s and early 90s. Are you going to get Apple? Are you going to get Windows? You're going to, or get some third-party BOS or OS2 warp like back in the day. That we argued over these operating systems and who was fair and who was doing what. Now, 2020, 2023, we're going to argue with cloud, and I think we're going to argue about cloud for a few years to come.
I mean, we've been arguing about cloud for quite a while now. In all fairness, they are investigating Amazon. I think, to your point, this is the start of the cloud wars with regulators more so than with each other. I think we're still in the early days, don't get me wrong, about people or businesses migrating to the cloud. But I think it's been well established that Amazon is the biggest player, followed by Microsoft right underneath it, and then Google kind of trailing behind. And I think there's IBM and Salesforce and some other companies as well. But I think the regulators businesses are complaining more now that they've kind of dipped their toes in it. They're looking at their options, and they're complaining to regulators, saying that, hey, what's been established over the last, 6-7 years isn't working for us. Let's figure out a way to kind of mold it before it gets really out of hand. And I think that's the start of the war that you're maybe referencing.
I think so. I think it's going to get a little crazy, and I think, cloud is expensive in general. When you're talking public cloud, the Microsoft cloud, the Google cloud, that's expensive compared to other options, or even private cloud options. I think you're going to see things get more expensive because something's going to have to pay these legal bills. So I'm interested to see where cloud is in general, say 2 years from now, if even 2 years from now. It just depends on how quick these things come.
Right, exactly. What's our next headline?
All right. Let's have a little gaming fun. I'm usually not into these things, but I saw this come out this week. I usually buy the stock controllers, and I'm kind of plain. I stick with the stock stuff, but there was a Gold Shadow Special Edition Xbox controller that came out this week that when I saw it, that's the first one I've seen in a long time that I said, that's pretty cool. I might have to go pick one of those up. The front of the controller is a gold color, and basically the back of the controller is almost like a metallic black type finish, and it molds itself after the Shadow series of designs, and it is the typical controller that you would expect that has all the features for the next generation console. You have the pressure sensitive buttons, you have the smooth gaming pad with the rubberized texture, you have it's Bluetooth compatible for the PC gamers out there or the tablet gamers out there. You can pair it right up with your device and also use it there. And it is available October 17th, and you can pre-order it now for $69.99. Also remember that it does have the ability through the Xbox Accessories app to set up profiles, which is neat. You can make the buttons anything you want them to be. So if you are a PlayStation player, for example, and prefer your button swap to more of the PlayStation style, you can do that. Kind of helps out with some of your muscle memory or trigger memory there. I know I have mapped it out several times when playing between consoles, so that's a pretty cool option to have. Check that out if you need a controller.
Cool. I'm going to drag us back into corporate world. We got Zoom launching a competing product to Microsoft Word and Google Docs with Zoom Docs. Zoom announced the new product, Zoom Docs, at Zoomtopia 2023. That was this week. I didn't know that was a thing. It sounds ridiculous, but it's real. And Zoom Docs is described as a modular, flexible, AI-powered workspace designed to address the challenges of hybrid work. During Zoom meetings, people will be able to collaborate on documents, wikis, and workflows using Zoom Docs. The AI-powered features, such as AI Companion, I think they're, it's not necessarily Copilot, but it's a companion, are integrated to assist with docs, creating docs and editing and brainstorming and content generation. Zoom Docs is capable of integrating information from Zoom meetings to enhance document content, which makes sense. Users can create customizable layouts and workflows using content blocks and organize data managing projects and track tasks using table blocks. It supports the creation of wikis and linking pages in a visual tree for easy navigation, as well as organizing documents into folders for better knowledge management. Zoom Docs are accessible on multiple platforms, including Zoom Meetings, Team Chat, and various Zoom desktop, web, and mobile apps. It's expected to be generally available in 2024. Again, the first thing that kind of crops in everyone's mind is Notion when you use the word wiki and tree management. So it's great that that they're offering this. I think that there are obviously tons of people who use Zoom. I think the question is how many people collaborate outside of Zoom will use this stuff? Because I think it's one thing to do while you're on a Zoom call versus collaborating outside of it, using necessarily Word or OneNote or Loop or Google Docs or whatever Amazon is using for their thing, because people will use these things day in and day out before they get on a phone call. And then they bring those things into the call itself, into the video call. So like I said, I am not one to say like one's better than the other. I just want to know how often the usage outside of Zoom will this have.
That was my concern, because you take us for example. We use the Microsoft ecosystem to do this podcast here. We've got Teams up, which could, I guess, be Zoom, but we've also got OneNote or Loop up and running, and that's what we use day to day, not just in our calls. That's where our info is. So it's like, to use your point, what makes a company say, hey, we're going to possibly consider abandoning our current workflow and we're going to move everything to Zoom, and we're going to do this so companies don't have to keep track of two things? I think that's where these services struggle. I think that's where cloud storage services struggle that are third party, because it's all about that integration factor. When you're in a business, you want to sit down, open up I call it your daily apps, open up your workflow and have access to everything. When you start having to go outside of that workflow, something we have to remember, it's costing these companies more money, because the companies in most cases pay for a workflow. Our editor pays for Office 365 for business. That's what we use for our workflow. What would make our editor, for example, step outside and say, okay guys, here's a Zoom subscription so you guys can put your notes in Zoom, go have at it? I think that's where, not to knock Zoom, good idea Zoom, but I think that's where all of these services that are third party, outside of the Amazons, the Googles, and the Microsofts, struggle.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. What's our next topic?
Well, let's see what we have. Speaking of OneNote, let me bounce back over here to our OneNote and see what we have. Come on, OneNote, you're misbehaving. I was just talking positive about you.
I know. I think it's time to use Zoom Notes or whatever they call it.
We may have to. My OneNote kind of closed here. Just a second.
It's folks. Okay. I got a new
got?
section, which is Microsoft OneDrive updates, enhanced content access, and file shortcuts.
Got it. Let's see.
Okay.
we had Microsoft announce two features this week on the OneDrive roadmap. I know my buddy Kareem here, he's still waiting on his OneDrive updates. He's just, from what you've said in the past few weeks, you just haven't been getting the OneDrive updates over that. I believe you're in the Canary channel.
Yeah, I'm in the get kicked out, you don't get anything channel. No soup for you channel.
Nothing for you. Well, maybe you'll get these. OneDrive for the web is getting a new feature that allow users to add individual file shortcuts. With this enhancement, users can create shortcuts to files that are stored in other users' OneDrive account. That's interesting. And their document libraries. This will make things easier. Like, for example, if I've got access to something in Kareem's folder, I can make a shortcut to someone else that needs it so someone else can get access to it. Now, the other feature we have that's on the roadmap, that came on the roadmap October 4th and is available worldwide, it allows you to access other tools through OneDrive, such as Microsoft List, Power BI, Loop, Whiteboard, and other Microsoft services. This one is expected to be available sometime in mid to late November. It will start with the Office 365 for Business, then it's going to go to the government group with the DoD, for example. Then it's going to slide down to the educational folks. And kind of to piggyback on just what we were talking about, you choose your file storage / sharing platform, usually based on what your company chooses to provide for you, which kind of backs off who gets the best licensing deal for what they want. That's kind of how that all shakes out. And you have the Dropboxes of the world out there that are third party, that are good services. You have the Google Drives out there, but over the last few years, we've kind of gotten to where all these online storage services are the same. You're looking at what's the price per gigabyte, what gets me the most storage, what's the cheapest per user license. So it's nice to see Microsoft say, hey, we're going to start kicking in some new features, do some things in OneDrive that maybe others haven't done yet, to maybe get you to use OneDrive versus some of the competitors. So this is good to see. I hope my buddy on the other side of the screen here starts getting his updates for OneDrive real soon.
Speaking of updates for OneDrive, they held an event this week, again, overshadowed by some other things going on in the news. Yes. But it was to showcase basically version 3 of OneDrive, what's going to be coming to users hopefully soon, which is a whole heaping bunch of features and UI changes and whatnot. OneDrive is getting a whole new makeover. And just to kind of go through some of those, because again, it was a long list. There's a write-up about it and a video attached to it. I think the video is about 30 minutes long. The presentation itself was almost 35 minutes. So we advise you to go check all that out for specific details that may pertain to questions you might have that don't get answered in this section. But like I said, briefly going over it, we will be getting new UI changes that offer some new organizational changes in OneDrive that will include the For You section. It's kind of like imagine what File Explorer kind of presents when it presents you the home screen, or when you go to, I think, your Microsoft or your Office 365, it's that kind of pane that has recently used apps, apps that we suggest, things like that. There's a meetings view. The meetings view will show you upcoming and past meetings along with meeting recordings and shared files, which is great for those of us who host podcasts together. A people's view, sometimes you don't remember the name of a file, but you do remember the person who shared it with you. It'll kind of look like, I guess, the people's section in Google Photos when you need to go search via people. There's a shared view, which again, you can just kind of look at all the files that have been shared amongst with you. It's kind of like in Google Drive, they have that view. Colorful folders is going to be a visual update. There's going to be a favorite section, which will keep track of important files, kind of like your pinned to quick access. Shortcuts and simplified sharing are going to be some of these just views that you can go into that help organize. Because right now you just have the, span of folders in OneDrive, and on the side you can kind of pick through, I think it's files, photos, shared with me, and a couple other things. But these are a little more organized. The new OneDrive experience will also incorporate some of the followings, which is files on demands from the web, offline file access, which I think we mentioned a few weeks back how that's going to work. We're going to be having an offline mode in general, so that, again, if you decide to start creating a file or something like that, as soon as you get back online, that file syncs right up to OneDrive automatically, and vice versa. And add new, when you're ready to create new files without leaving OneDrive, just tap the add new button, which is kind of cool. A media view, this is a new view that will help you organize all your images, video, and media in one place. Again, this media view is expected to show up in the summer of 2024, so don't hold your breath anytime soon. And then there's the more professional aspect of this, which is going to be the stuff that they give to admins for people who control, shared resources amongst businesses, which is advanced security and governance tools. They'll be available through the SharePoint Advanced Management interface, granular conditional access policies, restricted access controls, cross-tenant OneDrive migration, which will allow moving between OneDrive, your OneDrive content across tenants, block download policies, so you can't go and torrent anything nefariously and drop it in your OneDrive folder. Collaboration insights, which I think is going to be key, and data export for OneDrive sync clients. Admins reports as a Microsoft Graph data content via SharePoint, so you'll be able to get all that kind of stuff together and kind of see it visually. Microsoft's timetable for the rollout of these new features starts as early as next week. With people who are in the preview for OneDrive for the web and OneDrive for mobile apps. Larger participation pool should be tapped for 2024, though, for anybody who's going to be in a public preview.
So basically what they're saying is maybe 2024, you'll see it over in your channel.
Exactly. If you can, it's like if you have like the student ID, where it's like you can lie that you're an admin somehow, you can get into that private preview. But yeah, for everyone else, you're gonna have to wait till 2024 to even get a taste of this new OneDrive.
But on a more serious note, I think this is pretty good for OneDrive. I think it's good to see them adding features. OneDrive, to me, like I had just mentioned a minute ago, has felt kind of stale over the last few years. I have felt like it needed something added to it. And it's nice to see that we're getting more collaboration. The admins are getting more control over what they allow. They're making things easier to move OneDrive between tenants. I think that's a big deal because companies, move and have different divisions that may not always have the same OneDrive subscription. You take your worldwide organization, they may have a different subscription in another country than what they might have at their office here in the U.S. And when people move, it's nice for the admins to be able to easily move their data. So way to go, Microsoft. Keep the features coming and don't leave anybody out when you deploy them. Let everybody have it. Let everybody play.
Yeah. We're going to move on to our final discussion. It's not going to be a long one because we're kind of rehashing something, but we thought we'd give you the update on it because it's relatively big. We have Microsoft and Activision could become one as soon as Friday the 13th, which is next Friday for those of you or whenever you watch this, Friday the 13th, 2023. So again, if you watch this a year from now, when the date happened. Microsoft's $68.2 billion bid for Activision Blizzard is nearing its long-awaited conclusion, with Microsoft about to push ahead and make a formal announcement that the deal is practically done as early as October 13th, 2022. And we're getting this information from sources who spoke with The Verge. So again, we're not reporting this as fact. They aren't reporting it as fact. They're just saying that people who were familiar with the announcement, who are familiar with the dealings, are saying that Microsoft is prepping for this. So again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Microsoft has between now and the 13th, when they make this announcement, to hear back from the CMA on its official approval of it. They gave a provisional one, I think a week and a half ago, based upon the restructuring of the deal. I think we mentioned that. We'll briefly go over it a second time, which is they're going to offload Activision's cloud streaming licensing business to Ubisoft, which will now be the arbiter of all current and future Activision games that have the potential to be streamed. They will be that business orator, and they will determine what deals, what pricing, and negotiate all that stuff for the next 15 years. This isn't in perpetuity, but this is for the next 15 years. They will manage that while Microsoft manages the rest of Activision's regular gaming studios and publishing. As far as the deals for the people that, Microsoft made promises 10-year deals to Nintendo, Nvidia, Steam, and a bunch of other cloud streaming services already, those still stand. Its provisions and its approvals in the EU, those still stand as is. What this basically does is just set up Microsoft to say, hey, we've met our deadline, because again, they extended their deadline from July to October, so they don't have to pay Activision any more money. I think their late fee was about $4 billion, so they'll shovel out the $4 billion to get this deal done. And we could be saying Activision and Microsoft start making moves as early as the 13th. Now, this is all being said with the caveat that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is still an outlier, and they're waiting for their appeal to the preliminary injunction they had in July that they lost. And they were also opening up their own administrative case. I believe they have to wait a few weeks after they hear back from the injunction, which again, it's all set that they are probably going to still lose that. So their own investigation could start as early as November. We'll see how that works out for them. But they could undo Microsoft's deal, but I think as far as Microsoft's business is concerned, it's a done deal. They're going to move forward. They're going to probably start making plans, and with the FTC investigating, I think at worst it can be undone. At best, they make some concessions. They maybe offload some other parts of the business that may appease the FTC as well. But again, as of the 13th, Microsoft and Activision could be one business.
Finally, and that's kind of what I want to say there. I think the arguments are over. I think it's finally happening. We have talked about it on this podcast for what seems like almost years now at this point, and maybe we have talked about it for more than a year. But
it's been a 20-month long process.
I find it interesting that it's happening on October 13th. For all those people that are a little bit superstitious about it being Friday the 13th, I do find that a little interesting, and I think I don't think it's strange that it's happening now. And Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 comes out just 2.5 weeks after that. I don't know that there'll be a move made there to say, hey, here it is on Game Pass, but I do notice something interesting that may or may not be related, so I'm just going to throw it out there and let you guys chew on it over the weekend. If you've paid attention to the Modern Warfare 3 beta that starts in just about a week or so, if you notice, PlayStation is getting preferential treatment and more playtime over the Xbox platform and even over the PC platform. So, it's kind of making me wonder, is there a move made that, okay, we're done on the 13th. Guess what? When Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 comes out the first part of November, there it is on Game Pass. Does it happen that quickly? I don't think Microsoft is going to waste any time making moves now, because they've got to make $70 billion back. They've got to make that money back. And there's somebody in Microsoft right now that's tapping somebody on the shoulder, the financial guy, going, you realize we've got a $70 billion hole over here that we've got to fill in. So it's coming. Just when is
it's
the
coming.
question.
I don't know if it's going to be that soon. It may be next year. I think what they have to do is they have to work out the business aspects with Ubisoft. They have to work out the cloud licensing, to stream. The technology to stream it as well. I don't think they're going to start off with the Call of Duty being the biggest game that's taxing the most server resources and not have this all figured out beforehand. I think they're going to start dipping their toe into it with older games. Maybe World of Warcraft becomes the first
that could be a big
Game Pass game, and then they move on to Call of Duty once they have everything figured out, where they figured out the money that goes to Ubisoft, the money they have to pay, the money that gets back to them through allowing it to everyone else. Because again, remember, the second that they turn it to Game Pass, they have to leverage it to everybody. So that advantage that they would perhaps have over Sony gets nullified because everyone else has access to it, and Sony will have access to it as a streaming service as well. So I think they're going to want to wait to do that. And like I said, I don't think it's going to be very long. I do believe, maybe we see January or February of next year, but I think they're going to have to figure out all the logistics before that. And I don't think they'll have that figured out by the 13th, because technically they're not allowed to work on that kind of stuff just yet. But that's just my 2 cents.
You don't think the Christmas season will see something?
As far as from Microsoft and Activision, not yet. Maybe we'll get some announcements of some games that they've been holding back on, some properties that they're maybe working on, or some DLCs. But I think as far as Game Pass itself, I don't think they're going to be relying on any of the Call of Activision stuff just yet. At least not the Call of Duty things. Like I said, I think maybe World of Warcraft or maybe Diablo. That would be a good one. They start to move that kind of in that direction, but I think they really want to take their time with the way that they kind of navigate Call of Duty, because it's been such a tentative thing. And they still have FTC to get through, so they can't just go say, hey, here's Game Pass, and FTC is like, yeah, before you get started, let's rewind the clock back on that, because they still have to get the approval from them as well. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep talking about it, unfortunately, but we do know that 2 of the biggest hurdles are out of the way, with just the FTC following, so maybe our coverage on this will be a bit lighter. We're going to wrap it up, get you guys going about the rest of your weekend. Do you want to tell them about your hardware that you got coming up?
Well, we've got some fun hardware coming up. We've got a gaming monitor from Monoprice coming up. We have the new Surface laptop coming up. That should be here today. We'll be cracking that open and seeing where we're headed with that. We have a series for you network admins out there that are interested in backing up your Office 365. We're working with Synology to show you how to back up your Office 365, back up your Office PCs, even your personal PCs. And you can do that for free because there is no licensing. You just have to buy the device. And, the device can do more than that, and we will get into that when we talk about it in our review. We've got the Lenovo Chromebook Plus, as we saw this week or in some of the Google announcements, that there is a plus line for Google Chromebooks, where Google has basically drew a line in the sand and says, look, if you want to be plus, you have to hit these CPU specs, you have to have this battery life, kind of like the Intel Evo for Windows laptops. Yeah, or that and that as well. So I have cracked that open, took a look at it. It is a step above your basic everyday Chromebook, so I'm interested to see where that takes me. Yes, folks, I do like my Chromebooks. Other than that, we've got a few things in the works, but those are the main things you'll see coming up here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I got a couple monitors to go. I got the Dell 24 Touch, which is what I have initially dubbed the Surface monitor, because it's the only thing that kind of bends and folds and has touch the same way that the Surface one does. That should be coming out next week. I am finishing up my Z Flip review. That should be probably out this Friday as we speak. So go check that out if you are interested in foldables or more consumer-friendly version of it. Doesn't just follow a niche tablet audience. Then I got the Surface Laptop Studio 2. Thing's a beast. It's heavy. I am reviewing it. Got it this weekend. I didn't feel confident enough to give you a full review on it, but I should be able to kind of give you the gist of it by next week, because it's roughly the same machine, just a bit more power. I got a couple microphones, and I believe that should be it for next week's portion of reviews. So keep an eye out for all that kind of stuff. If you guys are interested in any of those kind of topics or products, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you about other things?
Well, David PAJ1978. I've been hanging. That's on. I'm gonna still call it Twitter. I've been hanging out with some of the folks over there talking Microsoft stuff this week and talking about some of the Google Pixel stuff that was announced earlier this week with the 8 and the 8 Pro. So if you're interested, jump over there and hang out, and may put some pictures up of the Surface laptop when it comes in this afternoon. So jump over there and we'll have a little fun.
Cool. You can find me at Mindhead1 on Twitter. That's what we'll call it. You can find me at Cream Anderson on Threads. Again, most of the time when I'm not talking technology, I'm talking comics. So if you're interested in those two things, come hit me up. Other than that, we want to bid you adieu. You guys go have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Have a good weekend, folks. Thanks again.